Welcome to theaustraliantest.com, your trusted resource for Australian Citizenship Test preparation. In this video, we'll present 20 unique questions drawn directly from the official guide, Australian Citizenship, Our Common Bond. Each question comes with a detailed explanation to enhance your understanding. Please do not skip and watch continuously for the best learning experience. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Let's get started. Question 1. What is the Australian approach to dealing with disagreements? Option A, violent confrontation is acceptable. Option B, peaceful disagreement is valued. Option C, disagreements should be avoided at all costs. Option D, only the government can mediate disagreements. The correct answer is peaceful disagreement is valued. Explanation: Australians believe in peaceful disagreement and, above all, the right to be safe and free from violence and intimidation. Question 2. In Australia's parliamentary democracy, what is the primary way citizens have a say in how the country is governed? Option A, by writing letters to their local representatives. Option B, by participating in public demonstrations. Option C, by voting for a person to represent them in Parliament. Option D, by joining political parties. The correct answer is by voting for a person to represent them in Parliament. Explanation: Australian Citizenship, Our Common Bond explicitly states in Australia's parliamentary democracy, citizens have a say on how Australia is governed by voting for a person to represent them in Parliament. While other options may contribute to civic engagement, voting is highlighted as the primary method for citizens to have a say in governance. Question 3. According to the Australian democratic beliefs, which of the following statements is not true? Option A. All individuals should be treated with respect regardless of their background. Option B. Changes in society should occur through peaceful discussion and democratic processes. Option C. Everyone, including those in positions of power, must obey Australia's laws. Option D. Religious rules can sometimes take precedence over Australian law in certain communities. The correct answer is religious rules can sometimes take precedence over Australian law in certain communities. Explanation: contradicts the principle of the rule of law as described in the Australian Citizenship, Our Common Bond. The text clearly states, the rule of law means that no person, group, or religious rule is above the law. It emphasizes that everyone, including religious leaders, must obey Australia's laws. Therefore, religious rules cannot take precedence over Australian law, making this statement false. Question 4. What is the significance of green and gold in Australia? Option A. They are colors of the national gemstone. Option B. They represent the national flower. Option C. They are used in national sports team uniforms. Option D. They symbolize the kangaroo and emu. The correct answer is they are used in national sports team uniforms. Explanation: the Australian Citizenship, Our Common Bond mentions that green and gold are Australia's national colors derived from the golden wattle, the national flower. In the national flower, it then specifically states that the uniforms of our national sports teams are usually green and gold. Question 5. How does Australian law view religious practices? Option A. Religious laws take precedence over Australian law. Option B. Only Christian practices are allowed. Option C. Religious practices must not break Australian laws. Option D, religious practices are completely unrestricted. The correct answer is religious practices must not break Australian laws. Explanation: religious practices must not break Australian laws. Australian law must be followed by everyone in Australia, including where it is different from religious laws. Question 6. Which of the following is not a requirement for changing the Australian Constitution? Option A. A majority of voters across the nation must vote for the change. Option B. A majority of voters in majority of states must vote for the change. Option C. The change must be approved by the British Parliament. Option D. The change must be voted on in a referendum. The correct answer is the change must be approved by the British Parliament. Explanation: the Australian Citizenship, our common bond, states that to change the Constitution, there needs to be a double majority in a referendum, which includes a majority of voters across the nation and a majority of voters in a majority of voters in a majority of states. The passage doesn't mention any requirement for British Parliament approval. Question 7. Which of the following statements best reflects the relationship between freedom of speech and Australian law? Option A. Freedom of speech allows Australians to express any idea without legal consequences. Option B. Australian laws limit freedom of speech to prevent criticism of the government. Option C. Freedom of speech in Australia is absolute and unrestricted. Option D. Freedom of speech in Australia is protected but must be exercised within the bounds of the law. The correct answer is freedom of speech in Australia is protected but must be exercised within the bounds of the law. Explanation: the Australian Citizenship, our common bond, states that freedom of speech is a core Australian value, but also emphasizes that at all times, even while engaging in freedom of speech and freedom of speech and freedom of speech and freedom of expression, the laws of Australia must be obeyed. This indicates that while freedom of speech is protected, it must be exercised within legal boundaries. Question 8. Which flag contains all of the following colors: green, blue, black, and white? Option A. The Australian national flag. Option B. The Australian Aboriginal flag. Option C. The Torres Strait Islander flag. Option D. All of the above flags. The correct answer is the Torres Strait Islander flag. Explanation: all the flags mentioned contain some of these colors, but only the Torres Strait Islander flag contains all four: green, blue, black, and white. The Torres Strait Islander flag is described as having green stripes, a blue panel, black lines, and a white headdress symbol. Question 9. What is Australia's stance on racism? Option A. It is tolerated in certain circumstances. Option B. It has no place in Australian society. Option C. It is only prohibited in government institutions. Option D. It is acceptable in private setting. The correct answer is it has no place in Australian society. Explanation: racism has no place in Australia. Question 10. Which of the following statements best describes the relationship between the three powers of government in Australia? Option A. The legislative power creates laws, the executive power enforces them, and the judicial power interprets them. Option B. The executive power proposes laws, the legislative power approves them, and the judicial power applies them. Option C. The judicial power reviews laws, the legislative power enacts them, and the executive power implements them. Option D. The legislative power drafts laws, the executive power ratifies them, and the judicial power explains them. The correct answer is the legislative power creates laws, the executive power enforces them, and the judicial power interprets them. Explanation: while all options sound plausible, option A is the most accurate description of the relationship between the three powers of government in Australia. The legislative power, Parliament, makes laws, the executive power, Prime Minister, Cabinet, etc., puts the laws into practice, and the judicial power, judges and courts, interprets, and applies the laws. Options B, C, and D contain elements of truth but mix up or misstate the specific roles of each branch. Question 11. Which of the following statements about freedom of association in Australia is not correct? Option A. Australians can join any legal organization of their choice. Option B. People have the right to gather and protest against government actions. Option C. Individuals can be compelled to join certain organizations for the greater good. Option D. Protests must be peaceful and not cause damage to property or injury to people. The correct answer is individuals can be compelled to join certain organizations for the greater good. Explanation: the Australian Citizenship, our common bond, explicitly states that people can also decide not to join and cannot be forced into doing so. This means that individuals cannot be compelled to join any organization, even if it's claimed to be for the greater good. Question 12. What does the acronym ANZAC stand for in relation to Anzac Day? Option A, Australian and New Zealand Armed Corps. Option B, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. Option C, Allied Nations, Zealand and Australia Coalition. Option D, Australian National Zealand Allied Command. The correct answer is Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. Explanation: ANZAC stands for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. Anzac Day, commemorated on April 25th, is named after this joint force, which landed at Gallipoli in Turkey during World War I on April 25, 1915. Question 13. What is the Australian perspective on dual citizenship? Option A, it is strictly prohibited. Option B, it is allowed, but dual citizens have fewer rights. Option C, it is permitted if the laws of other countries allow it. Option D, it is mandatory for all immigrants. The correct answer is it is permitted if the laws of other countries allow it. Explanation: Australian citizens may also hold the citizenship of another country or countries if the laws of those countries allow. Question 14. Which of the following statements about the Australian Senate is not true? Option A, it is sometimes called the upper house. Option B, it has a total of 76 senators. Option C, each state elects 12 senators. Option D, the number of senators for each state is based on the state's population. The correct answer is the number of senators for each state is based on the state's population. Explanation: the number of senators for each state is not based on the state's population. In fact, all states are equally represented in the Senate regardless of their size or population. Each state elects 12 senators, while the Australian Capital Territory and Northern Territory elect 2 senators each, for a total of 76 senators. Question 15. In Australia, the concept of a fair go emphasizes that a person's achievements should be based on their dash and dash rather than their wealth or background. Option A, luck, connections, and inheritance. Option B, education, family name, and social class. Option C, talents, work, and effort. Option D, appearance, charisma, and networking. The correct answer is talents, work, and effort. Explanation: the Australian citizenship, our common bond states, this means that what someone achieves in life should be as a result of their talents, work, and effort rather than their wealth or background. Question 16. Who traditionally performs a welcome to country ceremony? Option A, the chair or master of ceremonies of an event. Option B, an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander custodian of the local region. Option C, any attendee of the event as a sign of respect. Option D, the most senior government official present. The correct answer is an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander custodian of the local region. Explanation: a welcome to country is traditionally performed by an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander custodian of the local region. This cultural practice is specific to the traditional custodians of the land where the event is taking place. Question 17. How does Australia view the principle of equality of opportunity? Option A, it only applies to certain professions. Option B, it's a goal but not actively enforced. Option C, it's rejected in favor of a class-based system. Option D, it's a fundamental value, with everyone deserving a fair go. The correct answer is it's a fundamental value, with everyone deserving a fair go. Explanation: we believe that everyone deserves a fair go, and people should not be limited by any kind of class distinction. Everyone, regardless of their background, is given an equal opportunity to achieve success in life. Question 18. Which of the following statements about domestic and family violence in Australia is not correct? Option A, it includes isolating family member from friends and family. Option B, it applies only to physical violence within the home. Option C, it can involve threats aimed at controlling a partner through fear. Option D, it is considered a serious crime regardless of the perpetrator's gender. The correct answer is it applies only to physical violence within the home. Explanation: domestic and family violence in Australia encompasses a broader range of behaviors beyond just physical violence. It includes physical violence, but also extends to emotional manipulation, threats, isolation, and even harm to pets. The definition covers various forms of control and intimidation, not just physical acts, and it's not limited to occurring within the home. Question 19. Why is paying taxes considered an important way to contribute to the Australian community? Option A, it funds government services and infrastructure. Option B, it is a legal requirement for all citizens. Option C, it supports the work of the Australian Taxation Office, ATO. Option D, it directly shapes Australia's future. The correct answer is it funds government services and infrastructure. Explanation: according to the study guide, the primary importance of taxes is that they fund essential services and infrastructure such as healthcare, education, defense, and transportation. Question 20. What event primarily triggered the wave of non-British migration to Australia in the mid-20th century? Option A, the Gold Rush. Option B, the Great Depression. Option C, World War II. Option D, the Federation of Australia. The correct answer is World War II. Explanation: the Australian Citizenship, Our Common Bond mentions a wave of non-British migration came after World War II when millions of people in Europe had to leave their homelands. Large numbers of Europeans came to Australia to build a new life. Thanks for watching. We hope you answered all the questions correctly, and this practice test helped you prepare for your Australian Citizenship Test. Remember to check out UWC Australian Test. Come for more free resources and practice tests. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more helpful content. Good luck on your journey to Australian citizenship.